get advice and help from people who are farther down the road than you. People who have never owned things had a lot of advice for us. And they also thought that we got to take the money home at night, every night out of the till. You know, you empty the till at night and people were like, wow, you know, it's thousands of dollars in there. It's like, well, it's not like we get to take that home and spend it. Most of that's going to run the business. So a lot of people have advice for you that have no idea what they're talking about. So get advice from people who have done what you want to do.
Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more months than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident.
Good day and welcome to Give a Heck. On today's show, I welcome Marnie Swedberg. Marnie is an international leadership mentor, the author of 14 books, the host of her own radio talk show, a media expert, and a keynote speaker for organizations around the world. Marnie is fun and fast-paced, yet peaceful and approachable. Her history includes fires, floods, a tornado, car wrecks, business setbacks, a burglary, lightning strike, ambulance rides, and more. She models comeback behavior, possibility thinking, and profound faith. Marnie has owned and operated businesses in the restaurant and retail industries for over a decade and is now the web hostess of womenspeakers.com, the largest online directory of Christian women speakers in the world. Marnie, as a speaker herself, has presented for large corporations, including Honeywell, Prudential, and Pillsbury, to name just a few. As a media personality, she hosts a #1 ranked and featured blog talk radio talk show. I'd like to welcome you to the show, Marnie. Thanks so much for agreeing to come on and share with us some of your life journey.
Thanks, Dwayne. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. This is, I always look for very unique guests to share with my listeners and people that watch on YouTube, because at the end of the day, the most unique people get showcased the least, right? Usually people that are getting showcased are people that are crazy and doing silly things, yet the seriousness of life isn't getting showcased enough to make sure that, people understand there's so many great people on our planet that are not getting showcased. And that's exactly why I do this podcast. So I appreciate you, investing some of your time to our listeners and the people watching, and to myself, because I'm my my podcast, I'm the #1 fan of it.
There we go.
number one student of it, because I only pick
Right.
people that I know I'm going to learn something and continually elevate my mindset, and especially love having people on that are faith-based, right? So this conversation is going to be amazing. I know it will. So one of the things I mentioned to you before we hit record is, Marnie, that I like to focus on a person's origin story. For those new to the show, why do I focus on the origin story? Because really, at the end of the day, we don't know anything about Marnie. And if those little stories, those anecdotes, things that she's willing to share from her earliest recollections to where she is today resonate with you, you'll appreciate and connect with her message even more as we continue to delve into, the world of Marnie and what she's done for society and still continues to do that. So Marnie, could you do me a favor and share me your origin story, or what key things from your earliest recollections to where you're at now?
Yeah, it's always so hard to narrow down what I want to share in the answer to that question, but I do want to start back at the very beginning, because I had an unusual childhood in that I was born into a family where the mom and dad loved God, loved each other, and loved us kids. And that isn't everybody's story. And I recognize that that was a unique growing up experience for me. And to the point when later, and when I was an adult, one time I was praying and I was kind of comparing God to my dad, God, you're, so loving like my dad and patient like my dad. And I remember God kind of prompted my heart with the thought, Marnie, I'm way better than your dad. But I had such a great dad that it was hard to imagine that God would be better than that dad. And I have loved sharing that story with women all over the world, especially gals who had absentee dads or abusive dads or bad dads. Because a lot of times when we're thinking about God, who says he is the father, we're thinking of a scary big guy up in the sky who's maybe absent or, abusive or bad. But he's actually better than my dad was. He is the most loving father you could ever imagine. And I love sharing that with women all over the world. So that's first thing. Second thing that comes to mind is that when I was born, my parents named me Marnie Joy. And it was Marla Kay, and then Marnie Joy, and then Marsha Lynn, and then came along Vicky. But they had the three Mars going on. But they named me Marnie Joy, not realizing that Marnie in Hebrew means joyful. So kind of by accident, in God's design, they named me Joyful Joy, which is really a fun name to walk around the world with. And I love bringing joy, the joy of the Lord, wherever I go. And there's a verse in the Bible that says, the joy of the Lord is my strength. The joy of the Lord is my strength. And so if you don't have strength, what do you need? You need more joy. And it's kind of funny because we don't usually think about that, right? We usually think about, you power up with something, toughness, gut it through or whatever. But from God's perspective, joy is what gives us strength. And so I love sharing that around the world. So when I was little, then I started into school, and I was one of those kids who could not figure out how to read. And Dwight, I tell you, I worked so hard and I tried so hard and I studied so hard, but I really didn't learn how to read well until I was an adult. And so I had to come up with ways to get through school. I had to find ways to learn, to study, to understand things differently from like my older sister who was a valedictorian. So it was hard for me to learn, but I did. I just figured out ways. And that's really been helpful as an adult to have the kind of mindset, if you would, that looks at problems a little differently from other people who things came more easily to. And now, having gone on to write 14 books and I train writers, it's just so amazing to me to look back and to just say, wherever we start isn't where we end. The beginning is just that. It's a beginning. And maybe today's a new beginning for you. Maybe you just started a new job. Maybe you just started a new marriage. Maybe you just have a new baby, whatever. Maybe today's a new beginning. But wherever you are today, you're not going to stay there. It's all going to keep changing and you're going to keep growing and it's going to lead to somewhere else. So I love to just think about, this came to pass. So it didn't just come, but it actually came literally to go away. It came to pass this season, this whatever you're going through, whether it's a high or a low. So I remember struggling through school, and that also came to pass. And it gave me some good lessons in life that I can use now to help other people. So I think, as I think about my origin story, good things, hard things, beautiful people, difficult people, gifts that I have and talents that I have, and also things that, you'd say would hold you back or whatever. And I just know that when we live fully engaged with life and with the giver of life, God, that's where we find joy, complete joy. And we have so much opportunity to not only experience joy in our own lives, but also to share it with others. So I think I'll stop there, and then we can go wherever we want with the rest of the time.
Sounds great. Sounds good. I love that you are unique because you mentioned the fact that your family loved God, you loved each other, and you were very close knit. My family was the same, right? I grew up in a Catholic Christian family. We're all still very close. My parents are still alive. I actually seen them on the weekend. Seen my dad for a few minutes on Father's Day, and everything about our lives has been centered around God. And for me, without God, I know I went through a divorce. I've gone
Mm.
through challenges of loss of life of my one of my grandkids at a very young age and all that stuff. And every time I look at what grounded and kept me sane was my ability to talk to God, to pray to God, to ask for strength, not necessarily ask for materialistic things. I hear so many people say, well, I'm going to pray for a TV, a bike, whatever materialistic thing, whereas I'm praying to God for strength and fortitude and forgiveness and peace in my heart and stuff like that. And on the daily, waking up and knowing that it's another opportunity. I opened my eyes. He's given me another
Right.
opportunity to better myself. No matter what yesterday held, whether it was good, bad, or ugly, I've been given another opportunity and learning a life of gratitude and gratefulness for God. Whereas so many people just don't get it. And I like how you put, God told you, I'm better than your dad. That is priceless. And I imagine you've told, like you said, you've told that
Mhm.
story around the world to in many
Yeah.
organizations, women's organizations, but that makes me smile inside because at the end of the
Mhm.
day, when we're younger, we put people around us on a pedestal and realizing that they are a child of God and the reason they are who they are and able to be that supportive of yourself or whoever is because of God, right? It's not things happen for us, not to us. And God blessed you with an amazing father that you worshiped and it's great that God whispered in your ear. That's awesome. And I like the meaning of your name, that joyful joy. That is priceless. To Was it by accident? I don't know. God works in
Oh
mysterious
yeah,
ways, like they
they
say,
didn't
right?
know. They
Yeah,
didn't
but
know.
God,
God
God,
knew.
yeah, exactly, in that mysterious ways.
Yeah.
And I wrote down here when you talked about your reading issues until you're an
Mhm.
adult, but you never gave up. And you talked about struggle. The struggle is real, but really the struggle is it helps us continue to grow if we embrace it. You are a person though that just from the few minutes of listening to you, tenacity is something that is part of your essence, right? Because you wouldn't have kept on fighting through it. Many people that have reading problems or any form of learning issues that I've you know had interacting with in my life, they give up too easy, right?
Mhm.
They don't
Yeah.
understand that tenacity is something that you have to embrace. It's a superpower. So good for you for getting past that circumstance and using it as something to constantly charge you to move forward and grow. And I look forward to learning more about you. But yeah, so thank you for sharing what you did about your origin. That was remarkable. I appreciate that. So many of us, Marnie, have lived through trials and tribulations and found we either learn and grow and continue to climb or we get stuck living on a hamster wheel, experience the same
Mhm.
day in, day out with absolutely no growth.
Mhm.
You've lived through fires, floods, family deaths, yet your faith is strong and you love life. I know myself, God and my faith are the biggest reason I still move forward, and I'm grateful for life every day I wake up, as I mentioned. And I'm giving another shot to make a difference. And I just am so appreciative of that on a daily basis. Could you please share what are some of the secrets you have utilized to keep your faith strong and move forward while so many turn away and blame God for their circumstances?
Yeah. So I think what's coming to my mind to start the answer to that question is a garden. You're planting seeds, and you plant a seed, and let's say that that seed is faith in God, and that you believe that he's good and that he exists and that he's a rewarder of those who diligently seek him, it says in the Bible in Hebrews. And you believe that. So you plant that seed in the garden of your thoughts, and that goes down into your subconscious mind, and that's there. But then what happens is that when a trial comes, or when a trouble comes, or a burglary or a death or whatever, you can go in and you can pull that seed right out of the ground. And you can just say, well, I did believe that, but I don't believe that now. Right. And so we have all kinds of seeds that we plant into our thinking. And we usually like to plant good seeds, seeds of, people are decent and I'm going to be okay. And God's got me. And we're planting seed thoughts all the time, all the time, all the time. But we're also busy pulling those out all the time, all the time, all the time, because whenever something comes against that thought, we pull that out. And I think that the difference between someone who just perpetually struggles and feels hopeless and helpless and alone and even attacked and abused and all that, I think the difference between somebody like that who's gone through what I've gone through, but being over here, is just allowing the good seeds to grow until the roots are deep. And then no matter what the storm comes, the storm can't pull it out anymore. I mean, there comes a time when, the roots of the tree are so deep into the ground that even a direct hit can't take it out. And I think that what happens is either you recognize that your thoughts are actually going to have an effect on your future, or you don't. And if you don't, then it doesn't matter what you're thinking. You just think anything you want and there's no consequences. That's how it feels to you. But otherwise, you can say, no, my thoughts are going to have a direct impact on my future, on how I experience my future. So I want to be careful with my thoughts. There's a biblical principle that says that we take every thought captive into the obedience of Christ. And so when I have thoughts about danger, fear, hopelessness, hate, rage, whatever isn't like a good God thought, let's just say that. If you want to say just define good, okay, just define however you would define good. And I say God is pure good. So I like to add God to that, but you can just say good. And you have thoughts that are not good. Those are the thoughts we take captive and we say, hey, that thought doesn't get to stay in my head anymore. And you can't say I didn't have it, because you did. So you have to actually grab it, take it captive, give it to God, and then ask him to give you a right thought. What do you want to give me in exchange for that? So it's just a little exchange that goes on there. And then what happens is you go forward with peace and joy. And it's not that you don't feel, so when people die, you feel grief. That is supposed to happen. If you don't feel grief, you didn't really lose much there. I mean, you didn't know that person very well, or you didn't care about them very much, or whatever. If you had a great, deep relationship with them, when they pass away, you're going to feel that loss in your life. They took up a lot of space in your world, in your brain, in your life. And now that is vacant and gone, and you're going to feel that grief. But you don't grieve with the hopelessness that someone grieves with when their thoughts are in control and they just go right down into the depths of despair. So that works for everything from the death of someone all the way down to the little things like a burglary or, a car wreck or something. It all applies. The thoughts are always coming. And you said something earlier, and I jumped, I can't remember how you said it, but I'm going to use the merry-go-round as the example. When a thought comes into my head that is not aligned with the good God, when a thought comes into my head that doesn't belong in my head, a thought that doesn't align with God's thinking, then I take that thought captive and I give it to God and exchange it, get something back and move forward. And what happens is if we don't do that right away, it's kind of like a merry-go-round. And when you're in a park and you're a kid and there's a merry-go-round there, you hop on that merry-go-round and somebody starts pushing it. And for the first little while, you can jump off pretty easily because it's just not going very fast. But after a bit, you don't dare to jump off because it's going so fast now that if you jump off, you're going to go flying and you're going to get skinned up. You're going to get hurt. So you hold on for dear life as if you don't dare to let go, all the way until something else slows it down for you. That's how our runaway thoughts are. When we have a negative thought in our mind that is not a godly, a good thought, and we let that go, at first we have an opportunity to easily and quickly grab it and get rid of it. But if we don't do that, then it kind of runs away with us. And then it takes some help or some real determination, to stick your feet over the edge of that merry-go-round and drag your feet on the ground and make it stop yourself. But a lot of times we wait for somebody else to actually intervene for us. And the trick is, and this is so beautiful, but the trick is grab it quick.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things that I was thinking when you were talking about that is when I have those, because I've had these conversations with other guests I've had on, as well as obviously people within my faith community. If I have a negative thought, and they've actually proven that at 30 to 45 seconds, if you haven't grabbed that thought, like you were saying, I like how you put that and exchange it, you're in trouble. But one thing I do is when I acknowledge that I'm having that not so nice of a thought, I also, at the same time, I talk to God about it, but I also forgive myself. I forgive
Mm.
myself because
Yeah.
for having that, because otherwise I find if I don't, I acknowledge it to God, I ask for forgiveness, but I also forgive myself for thinking it. Subconsciously, I can beat myself up, and hours later, I'm
Uh,
not sure what's resonating wrong within my heart,
yeah.
right? Because I
Yeah.
didn't forgive myself for having that
Mm.
thought, even though I've given it up to
Mm.
God and asked for a different thought and asked for forgiveness.
Mm.
I need to forgive myself too. So I don't know if you agree with that or not, but I know for myself, I have to forgive myself for having thought that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I typically don't think of it as any kind of a failure or thing to forgive myself for. And I think I learned that back years ago where I was in a training and the leader just said, emotions are, period. Emotions are. So it's like when you have a thought, let's say that you smashed your thumb with a hammer. Okay, we all know that feeling, right? That feeling of just sheer pain. You actually have a reaction that is God given in that moment. The reaction is to protect yourself from more pain, to take care of that smashed thumb. And so you have a violent reaction to that happening to you. Some people will say words or scream out or burst into tears or whatever it is. For you, that is an emotional reaction to something that hit you. That happens emotionally with us too. Someone says words that are painful, or they betray us, or they steal from us, or whatever. We have an emotional reaction to that. So emotions just are. When you're going through something and you are experiencing emotions, there's no foul, no problem there. That's how God created you, was to experience those emotions. So the question is, and Nancy Missler, the author of Way of Agape, she's a mentor of mine, and she taught me this. Spiritual maturity has nothing to do with what's going on in your life right now. It has everything to do with how long it takes you to run that to Jesus. And I loved that permission to, I mean, I've had some really bad things happen in my life. And there are people, even possibly you as a listener, you're thinking, yeah, well, the only reason you had that many bad things happen to you is because you did things wrong. That's karma coming back to, smack you down or whatever. And I so don't believe that. Life happens. And we are in a fallen world where things happen. People get hit by, where I live now in Florida, hurricanes. Does that mean that they earned it? They deserved a hurricane, or were they just in the path of a hurricane? I mean, it's like, you can't actually stop every last bad thing from happening to you. The question is, what do you do when a bad thing happens to you? Whether it's an emotion that comes up that you want to get rid of, or whether it's somebody else abusing you, or whether it's weather. I mean, you have to do something with these thoughts that come. So yeah, I love the freedom to know that emotions just are. I never have to apologize for having an emotion. What I need to do is take charge of that, recognize that it's there, and then run it to Jesus. So just exactly what you said, just getting it to God as quickly as possible. And then if there was some sin that happened in the process, if you hurt somebody's feelings, or, you said something you didn't mean to say, whatever, well then, yeah, take care of that. Take care of that. But I really love the freedom to know I don't have to shut down my emotions. In fact, I believe God wants us to live very engaged with our emotions. He loves us to be full of joy and full of delight. And if we are always shutting down our emotions, then we lose that side of things as well.
Oh, exactly. No, when I apologize to myself, it's not because I feel guilt over the emotion. It's to acknowledge the fact that it wasn't just a fleeting thing, that it was something that
Hung
constantly
on a
came
while.
to my mindset, and that I
Yeah.
need to acknowledge it
Yeah.
and tell myself that's okay that you felt that, right? I'm not saying I want to
Right.
squash my emotions ever,
Yeah.
because that is,
Yeah.
we, like you said, God made us that way, to be emotional creatures. I just want to tell myself, okay, well, you had that emotion.
It's
You
okay.
thought that,
Yeah.
whether you thought whatever you thought, you
Yeah.
talked to God about it now, move on. And I
Let it
found,
go.
no, over the years of doing it though, and actually acknowledging not just God, I always acknowledge it, but when I started acknowledging myself more for being frail or being weak for that temporary moment, I don't have that same thought again. ever. Like I've given it up to God, forgiven myself.
Right.
To me, it's
Yeah.
just, it's a process. So whatever, whoever's
Yeah.
listening or watching,
Yeah.
whatever works for you is great. I just know it works for me and it keeps me on that sane train
Yeah. Right.
of
Right.
life, right? So, Marnie, you owned and operated businesses in the restaurant and retail industries for over a decade, which is a great accomplishment. What was the number one thing a person must do in order to have a successful business? And what is the first thing one must do to get
Hmm.
there?
Wow. Well, when my husband and I met, I owned my own business, so that was early on, and then we got married, moved away. I let that go, and then was a homemaker raising our kids. We homeschooled our three kids, and then when our kids reached almost the teenage, well, pretty much the teenage years, then my husband decided we should buy a restaurant. And so I had never worked as a waitress or anything like that, but I knew I liked owning my own business from before. And I just thought, well, maybe, so he was going to keep his corporate job and I was going to manage the restaurant. And so I said, well, before we do this, let me go in and just sit and watch for a day. Just let me, I just want to know, is this like rocket science or is it something that I'm going to be able to figure out? So I went and watched for a day and I said, that's a lot of work, but yeah, we could do that. So we bought the restaurant and just if you haven't ever owned a restaurant, you have no idea how much work that is. It's so much work. There's prep, there's all kinds of stuff going on behind the scenes that you never think about as a just a customer. And then 4 years later, we bought a retail store that was a 12,000 square foot retail store. We brought in a coffee shop and a bookstore, a Christian bookstore into that. And then my husband turned the upstairs warehouse into a dark black light glow in the dark mini golf. And so it was quite an amazing store. So then managing both of those and had the restaurant 14 years and the store for 10 years. And then we sold and moved down by our daughter here in Florida. So what would you need to do to prepare for that? I think just keep doing whatever God's got you doing. And then if you're, I think what I've seen so much, Dwight, is that God prepares us for what's coming next. He knows. We don't know, but he knows. In Revelation, God took the writer of Revelation, John, he took him out of the world and let him see the end of time. So, and then he wrote about it in the book of in Revelation. So if John could see the end of time, clearly God has seen the end of time. So he has seen everything he's outside of time and space. We're locked into this spinning world, but he's outside of time and space and he can see everything that has happened, everything that's going to happen. And so when I am talking to leaders about going forward, preparing for God's next step, we actually don't know what it is, but he does. And so he's already been preparing us for it. And we will have a lot to learn when we get into it, but you will be able to learn what you need to know and you'll be able to come up with the resources you need at the time. And I think just being teachable and just being very, very humble. So the people we sold our restaurant to, so we bought it from a family who had it for 14 years. Then we had it for 14 years. But the man who bought it after us had it out of business, bankrupt in 2 years.
Wow.
And the reason is because he would take no advice. He had the opportunity to have me come in and coach and mentor him for a while. He didn't use any of those hours. He had the opportunity to have my husband and go in and teach him about the equipment. He didn't use any of those hours. He had the ability to get a coach for his accounting, so that he didn't use any of those hours. And he was just sure he could do it. And so I think just humility and just recognizing you don't know it all. And there's some people who have been around the block a few times that can just help you really make sure that you don't hit the same pits and roadblocks that we went through, before you. So learn from others. And then I think the way to keep it going is to surround yourself with people who can do the work so that you can do what only you can do. And as a leader, especially of smaller businesses, we tend to get too down in the forest and not stay up above to seeing the bigger picture, because it's just so much day in, day outness of running a business. And if you don't take time to get up above that part of it, you'll never grow. You may sustain, but you'll never grow. You have to actually have time and the energy capacity to actually rise above the dailyness of your business so that you can take it to the next level.
No, absolutely. Running businesses, excuse me, is a lot of work. I owned a pub where we served food and had all the things that you mentioned, all the prep behind the scenes
Yeah.
and clean up.
Lena.
Like it wasn't a large. I think the capacity was about 150 people,
Yeah.
so it wasn't
Yeah.
small, but it wasn't too large. And it was crazy having to deal with it because it wasn't just a food center place. It was a place people came to drink and watch sports
Yeah.
because it was a sports bar.
Yeah.
And my goodness, you have to have a specific type of knowledge and mindset, which I didn't have. I had my finance business, the same business I have still 21 years later. So I was, it's kind of dabbling in it, got some people in that were supposedly going to run it. They wouldn't take advice from others. They wouldn't
Yeah.
take advice from me. And I ended up like 10 months later selling it off. I didn't even keep it a year
Yeah.
because what you say is
Yeah.
so true. It is something that is a lot of work, and having outside knowledge is important in that type of business and any type of business. I coach businesses for
It is.
21 years and
Mhm.
tell them, who can you communicate with? I can help you with the basics of your business, getting set up, understanding budgeting, overhead, stuff like that. But do I know your business because you're an auto shop? No, I don't. Who can you communicate with that is an automotive specialist that's done this before? And, maybe find a group or a mastermind, or maybe go to the local chamber, try to find people that you can say, hey, I'm new in business. Be vulnerable. In other words, be willing to accept other people's advice. Otherwise, businesses fail all the time because, like that restaurant person that bought your restaurant thought they knew it all, that they could do it all. It's impossible. You need to
Yeah.
have and surround yourself with people that will make your weaknesses a strength, right? Yes, you may have diverse some give some money for that, but it's better off. You'll grow and stay more sustainable. So I appreciate you sharing that. And the fact that you both owned it 14 years, what a remarkable, pardon me, coincidence, or is that a defined
Oh, well,
plan?
and I was hoping, so the original owner's daughter had wanted to buy it when we were selling it. But they had a large family and he was out of town a lot with his work, so that didn't work out. But it was really sad for us when it went under because it had been in the community for 28 years at that point,
Wow.
30 years, and it was sad to see it go. It was a lesson though to me as well. Just of, you walk into, a lot of us will walk into a situation that has been successful in the past and just assume that it's going to continue being successful no matter what we do. And that's just not usually the case. Um, Usually we have to really do our due diligence, make sure that this is something that's in our wheelhouse to be able to do. And then, get a lot of help and advice from everybody you can. And not everybody, but I always say, get advice and help from people who are farther down the road than you. People who have never owned things had a lot of advice for us, and they also thought that we got to take the money home at night, every night out of the till. You empty the till at night, and people were like, wow, it's thousands of dollars in there. It's like, well, it's not like we get to take that home and spend it. Most of that's going to run the business. So a lot of people have advice for you that have no idea what they're talking about. So get advice from people who have done what you want to do and have done it in a way that you would feel like is, authentic and honest way to do it. And then take their advice and apply it to who you are and remain who you are and be yourself in the business, be yourself in the ministry, whatever it is you're doing. But do take advice from others. Huge.
Well, absolutely. And, again, not just in business, right? Those
Everything.
you surround yourself with, the
Yeah.
associations of people, what you watch, listen to, what you read is so important, because if you're getting advice from, you're reading a book and it's a fiction book, you're not getting advice on your life. It maybe allows you to escape temporarily from your situations, your circumstances, your trials and tribulations, but it's not going to help elevate you. It's the same thing listening to a true crime podcast isn't going to help elevate your mindset. Sorry for those watching or listening. You can like true crime podcasts. It can be an entertainment source. But if you're utilizing any form of association with people or again, audio, what you're reading to elevate your life that isn't positive, all it's doing is dragging you down, keeping you on the hamster wheel of life, right? It's important that you are very cognizant of what you're ingesting into your emotional and mental mindset, and at least in my opinion, right? I'm very cognizant of associations. Was I always? Absolutely not. This has been a journey of life where I continue to evolve and develop and become a better version of myself, hopefully every day a little bit more, right? A little bit more. I listen to God and what he's telling me, who he's sending to me. That's another thing. You know yourself, Marnie. How many people say, "Oh, I wish God would help me and God would do this and God would do that." And I have all these conversations with him and I'll go, "Well, didn't you tell me that somebody came to you that and give you some advice and you kind of poo-pooed them? Why did you do that? Maybe that was God sending you that person, right? Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to directly interfere or affect your life, but he can send people that can.
Yeah.
So be more aware. Be a better listener. That's another thing I tell people all the time. You need to listen more than you talk, right? Listen to what people have to say and then make a decision whether or not they have, that golden egg that you're looking for, that golden goose to help you
Yeah.
with your life moving forward. So, Marnie, so many do not understand what branding is. Yes, listeners, we're going all over the place because there were so many things that I could delve into to talk to Marnie about, and we only have that hour. So there was so many things I really wanted to know your opinion on, and one of them was branding. Why is branding so important in business? And can you explain what personal branding is and why it works?
Yeah. So I'm going to just really simplify this. So if
Perfect.
you would imagine that you were walking down the street one day and you looked up ahead and you couldn't hardly see the back of a person, except you could see their walk. You just could see how they were walking. And you thought, I wonder if that's so-and-so. I wonder if that's Joe, or I wonder if that's Sue up there, just the way they're walking. I think that's Sue. Okay, so that's what branding is. Branding is the thing that makes you memorable, that is different from everybody else. Could be your walk, could be your talk, could be your hair, could be your colors, could be whatever. And it is what's going to differentiate you from other people. And you don't have to worry very much about getting it perfect. But what you want to do is and I do a lot of training on being uniquely you, actually recognizing number one, that you are unique. That when God strung together your 3 billion base pairs of DNA, he did it in a particular way, nobody else like you. So just get a clue that you are completely unique and you're supposed to be the way you are. This is you. This is God's gift to you, but also you are God's gift to the world, the way you are. So branding is saying, I am who I am. This is me. And then you actually dive deep and you go in and, like, for me, what color do I like? What colors do I like? You go with the colors you like. Now, don't go with the colors that are hot right now. Okay, you can, but that's not going to be your brand then, because then you got to change it as soon as the colors change that are hot right now. The reality is there's all the colors that are in the world, all of them have a place and a purpose. And so when you resonate with certain colors, that's part of your brand. That's part of who you are from the inside of you. You just always go for the beiges, or you always go for the brights. I mean, that's how you are. So recognize who you are, embrace who you are, and then bring those things out that are you, and then use those to communicate to the world. Now, if you are somebody who likes really, really, really scripty font, you may have to tame that down just so it's readable. But you want to stick with a scripty font compared to somebody who likes like something that looks more like a Halloween spooky font, that's got all the rigid edges and all that. Whoever you are, use what you've got inside of you to create your brand, because your brand should just be the natural outflow of who you are should be in your brand. Now, the reason that I teach brand this way is because I work with speakers. So I direct womenspeakers.com. We've got 1,600, close to 1,700 speakers over there, thousands of planners that are being connected with the speakers all the time. These speakers live and travel all over the world speaking. Now, if I put together their profile page, I write all the information about them, I write the bio, and I write the descriptions and the topics of their talks. When they get wherever they've been invited, they will not succeed because the planner and the audience is expecting me because that's who they heard talking in all the promo material. But if the speakers themselves describe who they are, how they communicate, what they're going to talk about, the titles, all of that, if they do that, just get help with the editing part of it, they're going to be a success because when they get on the platform, they're going to be exactly what the audience and what the planners expected. You for your business, if you're, I'm just going to say, pretending to be somebody else, or if you're using somebody else to do your writing and your marketing for you and you're not involved in the original plans of that and in the colors and the fonts and the phraseologies and all that kind of thing, when the customer gets to know your business better, they will be disappointed because they're not going to actually get what they thought. So the more congruent you can be with who you are, how God made you, how he wants you to show up in the world, the more congruent you can be with that, the more successful you will be in your business, whatever it is. And you can get help. I mean, none of us are perfect. So I'm not saying, just hang out all your dirty laundry and be, just, whatever. You do want to put on your Sunday best, but it should be you going to church, not somebody else going for you. You show up, but you show up as you wherever you go.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm going to dial it back to where you started at the beginning there and you talked about colors. How many people today, especially boys, love blue? But when you talk to them, why do you love blue? Well, boys like blue, girls like pink, or, it's a learned behavior from society or our parents, maybe, somebody close to us that raised us. And I
Yeah.
use blue as an example because I was, had a blue room as a boy. Oh, you love blue. You love blue. It got to a certain age. It was probably my early 30s. It has to be probably 25 years ago. I realized I really don't like blue.
Like,
It's not that I dislike it. It's just it's
not my
not my
favorite color.
it's not my unique me. My
Right,
favorite
right,
color is purple.
right.
That's what my
Yeah,
brand is. My brand
yeah,
is centered around purple and gold,
yeah,
yellow,
yeah,
whatever you want to
yeah.
call it, because those are
Right,
the colors I really like.
right.
And I had to discover my unique me, my
Yeah,
brand. Who am
yeah.
I? Right. And my
Mm-hmm.
unique communication style, I found that, I was communicating in my early 20s when I was taking personal development, going to conferences around the world, that I would find myself talking about a certain thing that it was something that I had heard because I found it captivated people, but yet it really wasn't my captivation. It was somebody else's. So,
Yeah,
I've been a working project, probably will till I take my
right.
last
All of
breath
us.
to make me be memorable, to be
Mm-hmm.
my unique person. And I thought that was kind of interesting because I know for myself, blue isn't my favorite color.
Yeah.
I wouldn't yeah, but everything you go look at my closet, my walk-in closet, I probably most of my dress shirts, my ties, a lot of them have purple in
Yeah.
them. You know what I mean? I have
Right.
a lot of purple
Right.
shirts. Is everything purple? No, but I like it.
Right.
Even
Sure.
even over my one shoulder there, one of my grandkids built me that little birdhouse. They painted part of it purple because they knew Papa loves purple, right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
right,
Right.
it's just
Yeah.
we need to be our unique self. I like how it's simplified you what branding is, what it is. It's just what do we represent? Walking down the street and
Mhm.
people I've been in places and around a corner, people recognize my voice. That's
Right.
part of my brand.
Right.
If they
Exactly.
came around the corner, I thought I heard your voice.
Exactly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Some people's voices maybe they aren't recognizable, but mine is,
Yeah.
and they
Right.
recognize my voice. Or,
Yeah.
I wear fedoras a lot. I love fedoras, and I'll be in a room of people, and people will go, "I thought I seen you across the room,"
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
and you know why? And I'll go, "Why? You're fedora."
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Didn't you wear that one last time we seen each
Yeah.
other months ago in Arizona
Yeah.
or somewhere in Canada where I live, right? And I go,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
I've developed my own unique self, which is my brand. And I don't apologize for who or what I have become,
Right. Right.
except for the fact that I constantly try to, I guess, sand off the hard edges of my
Oh,
brand,
right.
right?
Right.
Right. To be
Exactly.
more palatable.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. I don't think any of us should think that, okay, this is how I am. So just rough cut with no, I mean, it'd be like walking outside naked all the time. Let's just put some clothes on that. I think it's good for us just to recognize, okay, we aren't a perfect package. We aren't a perfect package. But honestly, to recognize and embrace the gift that God has given us in who we are and how we are and share that with the world. That's the greatest gift we can give back to God, honestly. Uh, I,
Absolutely.
I work with speakers all the time, and one of the things I found with this kind of this branding piece, it's a little off, but kind of fits here. When you are not a comedian, but you like to add humor to your talks, the kind of humor to share is the humor that made you laugh so hard you cried the first time you heard it. So don't try to just share a joke that somebody else told and everybody laughed. If it didn't resonate with you, don't try to pull that one off. What you want is you want the joke that truly tickled you right down to your core. And because of your delight in that story or that joke or whatever it is, the audience will delight in it. But if you try to use somebody else's that was for sure hilarious and everybody laughed till they cried, it won't work for you if you didn't. So just be very true to yourself in whatever you're communicating.
No, absolutely. Even the truth that you share, if it is like you said, humor on stage, or it's just sitting around with a group of people having a
Yeah.
conversation, and there's 6 people or 600 people, the people that resonate with you, that, you're going to be part of their tribe, they're going to be part of yours
Yeah.
moving forward after they hear you, are going to find it amusing. The ones that don't aren't meant to be in your sphere. Everybody's
Yes.
has people that belong in their season of life, and people that shouldn't. And I never ever apologize for the fact of, again, like you use that as example as humor. If I say something and 2 people laugh out of 6, I guess they get me. I guess, right?
Yeah,
And
right,
that's
right.
okay. And that's okay. Right. So sometimes we just have to be our unapologetically ourselves, right? Just be
I
our
wanted
unique
to, yeah,
self, like our fingerprint, right? Our fingerprint's unique.
absolutely.
Your fingerprint's unique.
Yeah,
Let's just be
yeah.
our unique selves.
I want to tell a story from the restaurant days. So we had at our restaurant, we had Mexican and other stuff too, but we had a soft shell that was our best seller. Just hands down, we sold more soft shells than any other product that we sold. And so one day a lady called me early on in owning this, maybe a few months in, and she said to me on the phone, she said, I have tried your soft shell tacos 3 times and I still don't like them. And I and I just said, have you considered trying something else on the menu? Because literally it was our best seller. For the sake of that one customer, we cannot change the recipe for you. It's our best seller. So just because you don't love it, we can't change the whole recipe for you. But that's actually how some of us feel, like if we don't please everybody down to their toes, that we failed in some way. And it's like, no, it's okay. You just simply can't please everybody with everything you do or say.
Oh, no, you can't. Absolutely not. At the end of the day, people pleasing has hurt more people than it
Ugh,
has helped, because you can please people, but being your unique brand itself is the way to please people. And if you don't please them, at the end of the day, you can't take it personal. You need to walk away from that circumstance or that person that didn't like the
yeah,
soft shell. That's just, it is what it is. We can't. That's why
yeah,
menus have so many options. Like you're telling
right.
her, pick something else. Like that's hilarious. That
I
is,
know. I
that
love
is,
that story.
that's it. Yeah, it's a good, really good story. So, Marnie, in today's fast-paced world, social media is a requirement. Otherwise, one gets surpassed and forgotten very quickly. I personally despise social media, but I know I have to use it with my Give a Heck brand and with my life in order for people to continue to see me front and center. Otherwise, they get lost, and I get lost in the sea of so many charlatans, we'll call them, right? Those posers, those facades, right? So social media obviously allows us to stay in touch with the masses and keeps us relevant. Why is sharing on social media so important?
Well, I think I want to start with there are certain types of businesses, lives, outreaches, ministries, whatever, that definitely have to be on social media. But there are a lot of people out there who simply are never on social media and their lives are perfectly fine. So I think go back to God, go back to who you are, what you're trying to accomplish in the world, and ask, is it necessary? If you hate it, is it truly necessary for you to be there? And I'm not talking necessarily to Dwight in this moment, but just to you listeners, because I mean, I know a lot of women and I know a lot of speakers who don't have social media and they're doing fine. So while it feels necessary, it is something that we can add to our lives. So now that I've said that, I will say it's kind of like today having a telephone. If you aren't on social media, it's really hard for people to find you. So you want to be there if you can. And then I have a free resource over at Marnie.com called Sane Social Networking in 15 minutes a day. That helps you to kind of narrow down and get offline more. And so if you're listening and you're the kind of person that really likes 4 to 5 hours on social media a day, then don't pay attention to me
Yeah,
because that's
cringe.
not me at all. I have simply too many other things going on to spend that much time on social media. So literally I spend approximately 15 minutes a day on social media. And for example, when this podcast airs now, I will share that out to my social media sites as well as my email addresses. But when I am not sharing something, I am off of social media. So I share and I call it ping pong. So I share, I ping, I ping, I ping. And then once a day, I pong. And I just go in there and I get what I get for those few minutes and then I'm off. And I don't look at it other times unless there's a specific reason why I need to go on. So I think having a plan that is doable for you is what's going to make it not painful. And I teach a lot on marketing, and you have a marketing personality. Each one of you has your own unique marketing personality. You need to figure out what that is. And if social media is way down on the totem pole on that, then don't worry about it. Do something that works for you.
Oh, absolutely. Um, today's today's world, people do spend 4 or 5 hours a day on social media, and I cringe because it's just you're missing so much journey of life. Like you look at all the young kids today, teenagers, or even some families let their kids even younger go on social media, and they'll spend hours on YouTube, which is social media as well. They'll spend hours on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever the case may be. And I think to myself, social media is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because it allows me as a person to see pictures of my grandkids. It
Right.
allows me to see pictures of, other
Friends.
families
Mhm.
and friends of what's going on in their lives. And shutting out all the other noise is really hard. So I don't spend a lot of time on social media. I might go on specifically and go to one of my daughters. I have 5 adult kids. I might go to one of their sites or one of my cousins I really like, and I'll look specifically at their stuff because I don't want to be that person scrolling. You get caught into that rabbit hole, you climb in and I'm not judging those that are listening, watching. If you do that, all I'm saying is don't forget the journey of life's happening outside of that electronic world that you're living in. And you're missing so many things because there's no way you're spending even an hour a day to see what's personal to your life through family, friends. You're reading everybody else's drama. You're getting caught up in their drama. Are you commenting too much? How do you feel after you're on social media? Do you feel really good? That's a great indicator when you get off social media, even for, let's say you stop for a moment and you go get yourself make a coffee, or you want some tea, or you go and you're changing a load of laundry, or whatever the case may be. How are you feeling for that moment and that break? Are you rushing to go back, or are you going to sit and regret that comment that you made? Are you wondering how you're going to get backlash because you commented a certain way? If any of that's part of your DNA when it comes to social media, you need to really reevaluate it. I know I did a decade ago. and realize that social media is a constructive tool for me, and I utilize it as such. Like you said, there's people in this world that don't have social media. I have lots of friends that don't utilize it at all, and they're living peaceful,
Fine.
great
They're
lives, right?
okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
your
they
life
aren't
won't
really
be
missing
over.
out. You feel like you're missing out, but you're not really missing out. Years
No.
when I was a young adult, I was in a season of time when I could be home in the afternoons for a little bit. I worked mornings and I worked evenings for a while. And I started watching soap operas. And I did that for about 4 weeks. And then my schedule changed. And then I, lost track of that. And then weeks later, somehow that I had an afternoon and I thought, oh, I should just watch one of those again. And, I hadn't missed a thing. It was like I had just gone from one day to the next. I knew exactly all the people. I knew what was going on. I knew everything about it, even though I had missed weeks of
Yeah.
investing 30 minutes a day watching it. So I think that's it's the lie that is out there that you're really going to miss a lot if you don't spend all day on it. But honestly, you're really not. Don't worry about it.
No,
You'll be
yeah.
fine.
If you're the person at a job that's standing around the water cooler and you're talking about whatever series you like and you're invested in that series, there's nothing wrong with that. But now if it controls your thought process and you're going, well, can't you believe what they did on this show or that show? You're just dragging your mental mindset down. You're not on the climb to personal growth, because you shouldn't be living vicariously through a drama or any type of TV show. It should be pure entertainment. Oh, I have an hour or two. I'm going to watch this show because it makes me smile, or I don't care if it's a crime series, whatever it is. Don't get invested in what somebody else is living in a fictitious world. And so many
Right.
people do today. It's
Yeah,
sad though, because the gripping reality of it is they're written to do that so that you feel that FOMO,
absolutely.
that fear of missing out, right?
Yeah,
People
right.
are living that FOMO. Oh, I can't miss this. And at one point in
Yeah,
time, I'm going to date myself. Even before VCRs, people would schedule around everything to be at the
right.
TV for this time because there was no
Yep.
recording it. It was, you
Yeah,
got to watch it or you miss it,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And I mean, again, I'm not even judging people that did that, but
yeah,
nowadays, you can record, or you can go on the streaming services and binge
yeah,
watch whatever you want for hours on end. And again, have I done that? Yeah, there's times where I'll sit and I'll binge watch, 2, 3 shows, just because for me it's entertainment. It's not
yeah,
because I'm trying to escape from a life that I
right.
don't love, right? So,
Yeah.
but we'll go on from there. So, Marnie, you have a training program called the 5 Levels of Personal
Mm,
Power. Please share what this program is and what are the 5 levels, and how can they truly help someone make a difference in their lives?
mm. So this is kind of a longer training program. I am so going to give you just the teeny weeny recap of it right here. So if you want more, it's free over at marnie.com. So just go grab that over there. But what it is a power level number one is me plus me. I exist. So even a baby has power. You think about the power of a baby. They have no clue what they're doing. But if they start screaming in the middle of the night, everybody's up, right? The baby has power just by pure existence. Okay, so the second power level is me plus ideas equals power level number two. And this is where we start to think things, and this begins to change our lives. So that's power number level two. Power number level three is me plus ideas plus action. And this is where things really get cranky. And a lot of people never get past power level number three in their lives. Me, ideas, action. That's what I do. Okay. Power level number four is me plus ideas plus action plus passion. This is where we put energy behind our actions and ideas, where we don't just do the thing to do the thing. We get really excited about it. And here I like to use the analogy of planting again. This time, let's plant a corn kernel. Okay, so when we plant a corn kernel, we expect what to grow? A pumpkin? Nope, it's going to come out a corn cob, right? It's going to be a corn stalk with corn cobs because it's a corn kernel. How in the world does that ever happen? Have you ever really thought about it? Because you put that little teeny corn kernel in the ground, and what happens to make that into a corn stalk with a corn cob on it? It actually lays in the ground and it vibrates. It vibrates a particular way and it draws to it the nutrients and even the worms that need to go around it. It does all of that from the vibration of this little tiny seed. When we are fully committed to the reality that we are unique a certain way, that we're supposed to be this certain way, that this is God's gift to us and we are God's gift to the world, and us living that out is our gift back to God. What happens then is we begin to live passionately. We don't just barely drag ourselves out of bed in the morning and drag ourselves through the day until we can sit in front of the TV and watch the evening away. I mean, that isn't how we live. We live with passion, with energy, with enthusiasm, with excitement about this life that we've been given, this gift that we've been given to share with the world, and this gift that we've been given to enjoy ourselves and share back to God. That is level number 4. And people who live at power level number 4 are the people, the movers and shakers in the world. They're the ones that are getting stuff done. They're the ones inventing things. They're the ones that are actually out there on the cutting edge, making things better in the world. Okay, so power levels number 1, 2, 3, and 4 start with the word me. Power level number 5 starts with the word God. It's power level number 4, but instead of just me doing it my way with everything I can come up with, this one starts with God at the foundation. And so this one is available to not only change things on earth, but to change things forever. And when I understood that I could choose to live at power number 3 or 4, or I could live at power level number 5, and my actions here right now could have an eternal result, that changed everything for me, Dwight, because I realized, wow, I can change this diaper and it can be changed, needed to be done. Awesome. Or I can do it with Jesus and it can have a eternal reward for me. Now, I didn't even understand why God would set it up that even our smallest investment, giving a cup of water to a child, why does that get to have an eternal reward when I do it with Jesus? But that's how it is. And it says that in the Bible, when we die, after we die here on earth and our bodies die, go in the ground, and our spirits live on, right? So we go up, and there's this fiery furnace thing you go through before you talk to God. And during that fiery furnace, everything that's done at levels 1 through 4 burns away. And what comes through the fire is level 5 stuff. It's the stuff that we did with God as the foundation. Like, as we delight ourselves in the Lord, he gives us the desires of our hearts. Well, where did that desire come from? It came from him in the beginning. Those deep down desires, when we actually recognize, oh, I'm this way on purpose. I have these deep desires because that's how God made me. I was created with these deep desires. When we recognize that it's all about him, all for him, all from him, we get to give it all to him. And at that moment, then this changes life from just being a benefit to those who are here around us now. You know, 1 Corinthians 13 is all about this. I can give all my money and feed the poor, and they are fed. But without doing it with God's love flowing through me, that's the end of it. There's no eternal reward. You have fed the poor, but that's the end of it. We have the opportunity in this life to have eternal results from our everyday actions. And I just find that to be amazing. So that's the 5 levels.
That's awesome. I love that. Those listeners or people watching, go back and listen to that again. I like how number 5, though, is 4 with God, right?
Yeah.
4 with God, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go forward with God, and everything I do has intent because God wanted me to have that intent. Even giving, just hanging out with a grandchild, and like you were saying, give them a cup of water, or make them something to eat. My intent and my energy is behind it, and my passion is behind it, and it does make it may be like a pin drop of, we watch pin into the water and it goes out and it slowly dissipates and it's gone, but that original thought of me doing that has made a difference in the world, right? It does, because they're going to be satiated and they're getting water, but they're also happy. So that resonates to, they run off to their mom, for an example, and say, I feel better now, grandpa, give me a drink. And then mom's happy because grandpa's taking care of something she didn't have. Like everything we do has a ripple effect. And it was
Right.
done for the intent of God's children, right? Did I serve? And I tell myself that every single night when I go to bed. Thank you for allowing me to serve others. Hopefully you'll allow me. What's your will? Am I going to wake up tomorrow morning, God? I hope so. If not, take my soul, right? Take me to where I believe I belong. But if I'm going to wake up, it's because I want to serve myself, being the better version of myself so I can serve others. So everything we do, for me, again, it focuses around what you said in number 5. I love that. It was great. So, Marnie, if you had to give our listeners one last closing message, what would you tell them in regards to giving a heck and never giving up?
Yeah, I think I want to circle back to earlier. We talked about taking thoughts captive. And we've spent quite a bit of time here talking about what we use our time for, what we invest our time for, and how we invest it with passion, but then with God or without God, like that. And I just think it all stems from our thoughts, what we think and what we believe. And I just encourage you to check God out a little bit farther. I know for me, understanding who he really is, that he's not some big unknown monster or grandpa or Santa in the sky, but that rather he is an eternal being, but he's also a loving father, and he wants to be involved in every aspect of our lives. He's definitely my best friend. He's more real to me than you are, or that, I mean, it's funny. We're just looking at each other on a screen here while we're recording. Yet we know that we're there, right? I'm here. I know you're there. We're not together, but yet we know each other are here. That's how God wants us to feel about him, to know with complete confidence that while I can't see him or touch him right at this moment with my physical hand, that he is absolutely here and he's real and he longs for a relationship with you through Jesus. So that's what I would just encourage you, is to just get your Bible out and dig a little deeper and get to know him a little better, because he is the best dad you could ever imagine. And one of the things I always say to my ladies is, come sit on daddy's lap. He wants to have a relationship with you, just like a loving father has with his children. And it's not a relationship so that he can use and abuse you or ruin your fun. If there ever are rules, it's for your protection. And if there ever are boundaries, it's so that you will be safe. And his extravagance is beyond your comprehension. So I just encourage you to get to know God better. And as you get to know God better, your faith in him will grow just naturally from that. And you will find that taking the negative, painful, hurtful thoughts captive becomes your natural breath, and that you live much more in the joy and delight of God in the world, because of all of those negative, dark thoughts being gone out of your head. So I just encourage you to grow closer to God. One of the things about darkness, Dwight, is that when you walk into a pitch black room, how long can the darkness last when you turn the light on? Boom, it's gone. One little flip of the switch and the darkness is gone. And that's how it is. God is pure light. And when we have him in our thoughts, in our lives, then all of the darkness flees, and we recognize, okay, bad things happen, but I don't have to be hurt by them. They are bad things, but that does not need to ruin me or necessarily my day, and definitely not my life.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate that last message. I know I have listeners that don't necessarily believe in God, and you do you, we're going to do us, right? We don't need to please everybody. Those that have been listening to my show for a long time know I talk about God all the time. So that is my right to do what I want to do. Everybody's going to live their own life. I know for myself, I agree with you. Those that allow God more into their lives and literally look at the wonders around them. Like I'm looking outside, just looking at the fact of a few weeks ago there was no leaves on my tree, because we have all 4 seasons in our country. In my province of Alberta, there was no leaves. The grass was all brown. Now everything's green and vibrant. The birds have all come back. that didn't happen by accident. Even the oxygen you breathe, the ratio of having enough oxygen for humans to survive is like, honestly, it's so fine. Do you think that happened by accident? And that's what I tell people, right?
Yeah.
There's you can call it whatever you want, but I call it God, and God's been good for me and my family and will continue to be, because I am going to, stay focused on that number 5 level, right?
Right. Yep.
I
Let's
love
live
it.
where it matters for eternity.
Yes. So our time is almost up, and I want to respect our listeners and your time. However, before we end, can you please tell the listeners what's the best way they can reach you?
It's so easy. It's just my first name, marnie.com. And over there, there's a membership program there that's free to join. And once you get in, you can see all the stuff we've got coming up. I do 9 virtual summits a year to help you just move to the next level in your life and your ministry and your business. And so check that out. And then also inside of there, lots and lots of free resources and training materials. So I would love to see you over at marnie.com.
Fantastic. For those new to the show that are watching and listening, go to giveaheck.com. Click on the top where it says podcast. You will see a picture of Marnie, and below there you'll see the abbreviated show notes, which will list her social media connections as well as her website. Though it's not hard to remember, it will be there. As well as there's also an abbreviated breakdown. If you heard something you really enjoyed and you want to jump to a specific spot, there'll be highlights of the timeline at the end of that show notes where you can, Marnie talked about her process, her 5 levels. Where was that? Oh, it was at this point. Good. So you can just zip to that part and listen to it again. I appreciate you being on, Marnie. Any last final thoughts or comments you'd like to share?
Well, thank you so much, Dwight. It's been just a joy to be here. And it's just my pleasure to share with you guys, just and encourage your hearts, and just hope that you will go forward looking for a little bit more of that joy in your life, because it's out there to be had. So enjoy life, live it fully.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So thanks for being on Give a Heck, Marnie. I appreciate your time and sharing some of your experiences so that others too can learn it is never too late to give a heck.
Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.